The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy. You are listening to Canary Crime News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Crime News Talk. Today is August 18th, 2025. We are live tape on episode 868. Oh gosh, it's going to be one of those days. And today, Brazil's democracy demolition. Signing on from off the grid, Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy, Basil, and you are not crazy. And Gonz is not here. We're keeping Gonz in our prayers today. He is at the doctor appointment with his father. So we're going to go ahead and start out today's episode with one of these.
Producers, assemble!
That's right, producers around the world. If you're listening to this, that's you. It could very well be you. All you have to do is answer the call. And of course, we're on the value for value model. So you are the producers of this show with your time, your talent, your treasure, but you can also spiritually produce the show by keeping the show in your prayers, keeping the other producers in your prayers, keeping Gonz and I. And today we are keeping Gonz and his father in our prayers because, you know, these big days, these big times in life that are split up into many months of big and arduous days that we just got to take the very next day. What are we going to do? So thank you to everybody sending in the nice words and all the nice things for Gonz. But it's just you and me today. Here we are. What are you going to do about it? There's nothing you can do about it. Big shout out to everybody who's coming in here on the live over on the YouTube or the Rumble or wherever you're coming from. I see you, Guitar Man 86, Caretaker Dan. We got Kelly. We got Leo. Everybody's here. Okay, we're having some fun. Big shout out to the Face Like the Sun channel. Once again, apologies, Gonz isn't here, but you know, there's important things going on in the world that everybody needs to know about. With that, we're going to be jumping in real quick, but I wanted to remind you what day it was.
Gary, what day is it? Monday.
That's right. It is Monday. We're just starting out the week. We're glad that you're starting it with us here. Let's jump over here. Let me make sure, check all my notes. We should probably just jump right in because this probably not going to be a 3-hour show. It's hard to do. But as I said, we are on the value for value model. So I'll tell you one thing. There is a temptation. Yes, brothers and sisters, life is filled with temptations, but none that we are not strong enough to avoid if indeed we make the right choices. And today, there was a temptation with Gonz being gone, with the nature of my morning, which included basically losing use of my entire left side of my body. This is about as high as I can lift my arm like this. You know, when you get past about 30 years old, sometimes you just wake up in the morning and there's like a shooting pain in your back or your neck or your back and your neck, and moving your body simply and slowly in a certain direction becomes some sort of agonizing limit to our physical power for that day. And that is me. I can't really even lift this arm high enough to touch my headset without some shooting pain. So you'll probably hear some ooh, ah, here and there as I forget my limits and learn them over and over again throughout the episode. But thank you for your grace and mercy when that comes. I know you guys will understand. Some of you will understand. It's much like, well, I don't know. It's hard to tell because we don't collect a lot of data on our viewers. So it's hard to tell exactly who's out there, but my guess is that most of you will understand. Well, starting out with some news here. This is brought to us by the one and only executive producer, Sir LX Protocol V2, Baron of the Brian Protocol. And we have some breaking news. We just want to make sure we start out the day with. It's happy news. You know, these types of things are fun. Starting out with some fun.
State-sponsored propaganda machine.
Brainwashing.
Propaganda.
There he is, Propaganda Rooster. He's back from the dead. He got eaten by coyotes, but now he's here to explore the wild world of propaganda. And we are starting out with an update on some big news we got earlier this year. And that is coming from NBCnews.com, which is a very important place to get this news from, because, as the headline says, MSNBC to change name to MS Now amid spinoff from NBC Universal. You know, there's this little clip here from, what's this guy's name? Is this Jake Tapper? No, this is Morning Joe. I'm kind of curious what Morning Joe has to say about this. I'm going to play it. Let's see what he has to say. Y'all in the chat, you got to be here and produce the show. You got to let me know if this audio is coming through the stream, because I really hope it does. Let me play this.
As it pertains to our network. This morning, a new name for the network by the end of the year.
Okay. Are you guys getting that audio? Okay, good. You're getting it. All right. So this is Morning Joe. Remember, Morning Joe, the Biden's sharp as a tack, the, all the expletives, the war with Trump, and then inevitably going to visit Trump at the White House with his wife, Mika Brzezinski, I believe her name is. This is NBC. You might know it by another name. I think Trump has called it MSDNC, things like this. Just a beautiful sort of case study in exactly what's wrong with the mainstream media, what has been wrong. And indeed, it's a fun thing to celebrate, because this right here, this in particular, I would say MSNBC, even more so than CNN. You know, CNN gets a lot of guff, and we have our fun, making sure CNN knows that we're on to them. But MSNBC, even more so, with clips and leaks and everything to confirm rather, that MSNBC pretty much just takes its marching orders directly from the Democratic Party, which is why it inevitably played a pretty strong role in the collapse of mainstream news altogether. Well, we heard that they were spinning off earlier this year. This followed their catastrophic drop in viewership as people realized that it was some sort of illusion or spell being cast by some, at this point, impotent wizards over at the Democratic Party. So here we go. Here's Morning Joe giving us the news.
We will become MS Now, which stands for my source for news, opinion, and the world. And look, Andrew, they even have a graphic up.
There it is.
Actually,
the new logo.
It looks very sporty. As we go to Versant, we're going to...
It looks very sporty, he says. Now, for those who are viewing, I apologize to those who are listening. I'm going to have to describe it to you. And it's important to remember MSNBC's role in the world as we speak, as an extension of the Democrat Party, in the very words of their own reporters, their own anchor people, if not taken as a clear case study, as as to the impotence of mainstream media, cable news in today's world. Somehow they continue to exist. Honestly, of course, pharmaceutical advertising is a big part of that. But this logo, first the name, MS Now. And this will come up in some of the articles. I'm going to read a couple little things from a couple articles before we go here. But MSNBC stood for Microsoft NBC partnership. So it was back in like the early 2000s. Bill Gates and Microsoft decided they needed to get, into the propaganda game. In 2012, Microsoft exited the partnership, but they kept the MSNBC because the brand had, a decade of brand recognition. That's just what you do. But now, MS Now, they're looking at their name. They're like, okay, we got to spin off. NBC doesn't want us anymore. Let's rebrand. Let's figure something out. What's our name now? Okay, MSNBC, Microsoft NBC. Okay, what do we keep? Because we want people to recognize us still, It is really, it's apocalyptic for a big brand like this to change its name or change its logo because almost the entirety of the value of the company comes from its brand recognition. Because what does MSNBC have if not, brand recognition? It has nothing besides some cameras and some bad reporters. And so they go, okay, we'll keep the MS part. The Microsoft part, that Microsoft hasn't been there for now 13 years. Yes, it's the MS part that people will really resonate with. MS Now. Now you look at the what is this logo here, and it looks like a tiny flag. It's got kind of like a waving flag kind of look to it. It's blue waving flag, and it's got red stripes on it, 2 red stripes, kind of in the form of an equal sign. Now it's also hearkening to like an American flag, which is hearkening to sort of the new democratic strategy of like trying to create a new kind of patriot. They finally realized that hating America is not like the best way to get people to watch your news or really appreciate anything you're doing in this world. So the Democratic Party in general, they've got their, what do they call it? Abundance Democrats, which is basically just like neoliberalism with a new name. They've got, anyways, you get the point. So they're trying to get a little patriotic spin here with something that kind of harkens to an American flag. Although you see the 2 red lines here, they're kind of in an equal symbol. So there's some, this is equality, baby. It's liberalism. Now, MS Now, it kind of looks like Miss Now, like not Mrs., but Ms. This is Ms. Now, which feminism, I guess. Maybe that's what's going on here. Let me read just a little bit of the NBC News article. Now, remember, the NBC News article is important because they were the parent company of MSNBC, now Ms. Now. So, this is mommy and daddy making the announcement. MSNBC will change its name to MS Now for My Source News Opinion World. Now, various articles covering this have various different explanations. Like there's a fuller name. My Source News Opinion World, of course, is reflecting the exact letters of MS Now. But Joe, let's listen to Joe again, because he lays it out a little bit better.
By the end of the year, we will become MS Now, which stands for My Source for News, Opinion, and the World.
My Source for News, Opinion, and the World. So you've got, some words that try to at least make it make sense in there. But NBC themselves, the former parent company, seem to be mocking the name by leaving out all the, little mini words that don't usually get their letters into an acronym. My Source for News, Opinions, and the World. I love that opinions are in there because at least they're being honest. Oh, I'm just going here for my opinions. I don't know what my opinions are, so I'm going to go to Ms. Now, and she's going to tell me what my opinions are. It continues, and unveil a new logo this year as part of the cable news channel spinoff from the Comcast-owned media company. Comcast announced last year that it would spin off most of its cable television networks into a separate, publicly traded company called Versant. Versant. That's a better name than they had when they announced this last year. I think it was just called Spinoff or Spin or something. Spin was the company. The new company will include MSNBC and the financial news channel CNBC, as well as the USA Network, Oxygen E, Sci-Fi, and the Golf Channel. Oh, what a portfolio of valuable assets they have there. The branding changes represent Versant's emphasis on, quote, building our individual identity and vision for the future, while laying a foundation for the continued growth and success of our business. The continued growth and success. Versant CEO, and this caught my eye, and this takes a real, Bible believer to catch this. Versant CEO Mark Lazarus said in a memo to staff Monday morning. Now, it's interesting, his last name is Lazarus, because, of course, those who've read your Bible, Lazarus is the name of a fella who Jesus raised from the dead. Well, I think he's the one and only fellow that Jesus raised from the dead besides himself. I could be mistaken. I think there might have been a child in there somewhere, or maybe there. Anyways, so Lazarus, the CEO's name is the name of a biblical man who was raised from the dead. Now, Lazarus also had some other experiences. Maybe that becomes important later. But it's, all kind of the weird pieces, the weird esoteric biblical spiritual warfare pieces coming together as this like rebirth from MSNBC to Ms. Now, led by Mark Lazarus. It's got kind of this epic flair to it. Now, about the logo, they say, Lazarus says, quote, the peacock is synonymous with NBC Universal, and it is a symbol they have decided to keep within the NBCU family, Lazarus said, quote, this gives us the opportunity to charge our own path forward. That's a good CEO. This is an opportunity. It's not a problem. It's a problemtunity. Gives us an opportunity to charge our own path forward, create distinct brand identities, and establish an independent news organization following the spin. This is going to have to wait for next episode, but I wonder if we dig in to the funding of Versant and Ms. Now, I'm very curious to find out just how independent they are. But that's the branding choices they're making here. So they're establishing Ms. Now, of course, with symbolism of patriotism, equality, a little bit of a feminist flair with the Ms. bit, to establish an independent news organization following the spin, an independent news organization that is owned by Versant, run by a man named Lazarus, and so independent that it also includes CNBC, USA Network, Oxygen E, Sci-Fi, and Golf Channel. They're all independent together. All right. And MSNBC President Rebecca Cutler said the network will not change editorial direction. So they're telling you right there, we are still a mouthpiece of the Democrat Party as it builds out its own news gathering operation entirely separate from NBC News. There's a little detail here. Parenthetical, MSNBC launched in 1996 as a joint venture between NBC News and Microsoft. Quote, while our name will be changing, who we are and what we do will not. Oh, trust me, nobody thinks that what you do is going to be changing. Cutler said in an internal memo, quote, our commitment to our work and audiences will not waver from what the brand promise has been for 3 decades. The brand promise. The rebrand will be accompanied by a national marketing campaign. Listen up and buckle your seatbelts, folks. because the rebrand will be accompanied by a national marketing campaign, quote, unlike anything we have done in recent memory, Cudler said. CNBC, for its part, will keep the acronym Consumer News and Business Channel, but will debut a new logo without the peacock. Comcast will retain, and then it goes and talks about those other things. So this is NBC notifying the world that it is pushing the baby bird out of the nest. Let's see if Joe has anything else exciting to say.
And look, Andrew, they even have a graphic up.
Oh,
there it is.
Actually,
the new logo.
It looks very sporty. As we go to Versant, we're going to be moving in this direction. MS now, which I got to say, I got a call yesterday afternoon, and they're saying, "We hope you're okay." We're going. I was like, "What do you mean? Like this shows we're independent." And what I've said on this show time and time again is, you look.
Okay, what? Okay, hold on. Did anybody catch what he just said? Did he say anything, or was he sort of mocking the person that was giving him the announcement? Let's try that again.
I got a call yesterday afternoon, and they're saying, "We hope you're okay." We're going. I was like, "What do you mean? Like this shows we're independent." And what I've said on this show time and time again is, you look at the people that are running the company, they're entrepreneurial.
Right.
Like when you have somebody come into your company after working for like big corporations and you're talking, you're saying, and they go, "We want you to be entrepreneurial. We want you to come up with new ideas. We want you to push the boundaries." I'm excited about that. So I'm excited about this too. It's like, what's in the name? Well, whatever you put into the name.
Well, look, my understanding is this decision was a choice by NBC Universal. Right. Remember, originally they were going to leave the Peacock with the different units. Right. They decided that they wanted that to stay with NBC.
Okay. It seems like there's some internal struggle going on there. And, look, Morning Joe's not an idiot per se, or perhaps lout. I'll use the word lout. He's not a lout per se. He knows this isn't good. But if we head on over here to Newsweek, we can kind of get some, if not independent, just some separate ideas about what people are thinking here. This headline, MSNBC rebrand to MS Now, mocked online. Well, you don't say. The rebranding, which stands for My Source for News, Opinion, and the World. Even Newsweek, writing an article about how the rebrand is being mocked, used the proper layout of the new name. I feel like NBC is real. They know what they're doing. They're not very, I'll say, they don't care about setting up Ms. Now with any, I don't know. He's really letting the bird fly out of the nest, I guess. Which stands for My Source, News Now, Opinion, and the World. Jeez, comes as Comcast spins off. We know this. Come on, give me something. Why it matters. The name change is partly the result of NBC Universal's decision to retain the NBC name and Peacock branding for its own purposes, while sister channel CNBC, we don't care about CNBC. Nobody cares about CNBC. Oh, okay, let me grab. Here we go. Others tied the rebrand to politics, with one account writing, quote, "President Trump completely destroyed them. They'll never recover." Yeah, that's true. Despite criticism, we already know what's her face said. Rebrand comes alongside major newsroom expansion. Okay, we're getting a bigger newsroom. Dozens of journalists have been hired recently, with more expected as the network builds a newsroom independent of NBC News. There's Versant CEO Mark Lazarus confirmed that the logos across spin-off channels are being redesigned. What people are saying. Come on, give me something good. You're not going to give me anything good. Okay. It seems like they've dialed back a little bit on their criticism there at Newsweek. So there you go, folks. One of the really most impressive propaganda operations in modern history, until it wasn't, is I see this as actually taking the mask off, if you will, which I commend them for. It's very important. Once you start living into your truth Ms. Now, live into your truth. I can't wait for all the clips of Morning Joe where he accidentally says MSNBC a dozen times and has to correct himself. Sort of, well, you know what the real bummer is? We're going to get a lot of, remember when X changed its name? It's going to be X, formerly known as Twitter. It's going to be Ms. Now, formerly known as MSNBC, for like the next 3 years. So there you go. Thank you very much, Propaganda Rooster. Okay, I'm going to blast through some things here because we've got some big news I want to get to later on in the show, but we did have a very interesting announcement this morning, and it does have to do with the man himself, the harbinger of the new age.
We will launch a new age. I am innocent. Innocent. They're coming after me. They love killing.
I'm going to start out actually with this Truth Social post from Donald Trump. It says, I am going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots, all caps. And also, while we're at it, highly, quote, inaccurate. I like how the word inaccurate is in quotation marks. Very expensive and seriously controversial voting machines, which cost 10 times more than accurate and sophisticated watermark paper, which is faster and leaves no doubt at the end of the evening as to who won and who lost the election. We are now the only country in the world that uses mail-in voting. All others gave it up because of the massive voter fraud encountered. We will begin this effort, which will be strongly opposed by the Democrats because they cheat at levels never seen before, by signing an executive order to help bring honesty to the 2026 midterm elections. Remember, the states are merely an, quote, agent for the federal government in counting and tabulating the votes. They must do what the federal government, as represented by the President of the United States, tells them for the good of our country to do. Okay, that was a little hard to follow, but I bet it's good. Excuse me for one moment. Because of the shooting pain in my back, I can't even sit up in my chair when I start to slouch because it, oh yeah. So I've got one working arm, folks. Give me a break. All right. Where were we? With their horrible radical left policies like open borders, men playing in women's sports, transgender and woke for everyone, and so much more, Democrats are virtually unelectable without using this completely disproven mail-in scam. Elections can never be honest with mail-in ballots / voting, and everybody, in particular the Democrats, knows this. I and the Republican Party will fight like heck to bring honesty and integrity back to our elections. The mail-in ballot hoax using voting machines that are a complete and total disaster must end now. Without fair and honest elections, okay. Truth Social wants to use cookies. No! Get your cookies out of here. It's not letting me read the rest of it. Come on. Really? Am I going to accept cookies? Okay, I guess I'm just accepting cookies now. Where was I? Remember, without fair and honest elections and strong and powerful borders, you don't even have a semblance of a country. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. Well, in this really impressive sort of screen, if you're looking at it on the screen here, you see it really should be split up into 3 paragraphs, but it's just one nice, big, powerful paragraph. Thank you, Donald Trump, for that. The interesting thing about this is a little bit of the first time we've heard anything about voter fraud or the 2024 election, the 2024 election, any of these. He's really done a good job of sort of letting go of the need to harp on this very often, which admittedly, he's got other big things going on. Just met with Putin in Alaska, had a great time with Putin. Goodness gracious, the news on the Putin Alaska thing has just really been intolerable. Of course, Trump is Putin's puppet, and Putin's getting everything he wants, and Trump's turning on Ukraine and all this stuff. When what really happened is, Trump did a Trump thing. He did roll out the red carpet, a literal red carpet. He did have a B-2 bomber flyby as Putin was getting off the plane. And the biggest scandal that we have ever seen, Putin, if it is the real Putin, probably not the real Putin, doesn't actually look like the real Putin. And if it were the real Putin, that would be an extremely silly thing for him to do. But, the man pretending to be Putin at the time got to ride in the beast with Trump. And oh my gosh, what happened in that limousine? We'll never know. Just long story short, Trump says, no, we don't have a ceasefire. We're going straight for a peace deal. We're not quite there. He was getting a lot of hullabaloo because Trump had said before the meeting, if Putin doesn't agree to a peace deal, I'm walking out. I'm walking out in the first 2 minutes. And while he did not walk out in the first 2 minutes, they did actually not even make it to lunch. Putin and the Russian, or the quote unquote Putin and the Russian delegates, there's this beautiful lunch planned. Oh, just gorgeous. In fact, one of the pieces of propaganda that are beautiful. Let me see if I can get this here, because this is actually pretty funny. Because there's so little to actually latch onto. It's one of those things where Putin and Trump having a meeting is like supposed to be a really big deal, but it was so not a really big deal that they're just grasping at pretty much anything. Here is, this was the scandal. Trump left. Somebody in the Trump administration had left some printed material behind. Okay, left some printed material behind in at the hotel, which is, of course, a security failure. And one of the piece of printed material was the lunch menu from the lunch that never happened. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. Can I? May I, please? May I? I don't think I may. I don't think it's going to may me do this. Okay, what if I go like this? Plus sign. There we go. All right. Here is the menu. This is very important from Trump and Putin's dinner. Luncheon in honor of His Excellency Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation. Putin's puppet. The menu said in honor of Vladimir Putin. Well, you tell me if this sounds like an honorable lunch. We've got a green salad with champagne vinaigrette and a duet of filet mignon with brandy peppercorn sauce and halibut Olympia. Filet mignon and halibut. These are state secrets, by the way, that were left behind after a very important meeting with a world leader, that they did not find peace. I think perhaps Putin took one look at this menu and said, there's no beets. And so, I'm out of here. Let's see here. Oh, and at the end, creme brulee, joint base Elmendorf Richardson, August 15th, 2025. This is a piece of history, folks. It's very, very impressive. So news organizations latching onto this and how, this security breach was such a problem that we can't trust anything. We cannot trust anything. Putin and Trump allegedly spoke together for 3 hours, which I think meant that the quote unquote Putin and Trump walked into a room. Could have been a quote unquote Trump too. Could have just been the two actors getting together, and then the real Putin and Trump just kind of had a Zoom call or something. But anywho, That is what follows on the heels of MSNBC going to Ms. Now. Let me do this. Okay, a couple. Yeah. Let's do this. We got another Trump thing because we really haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about the martial law, the collapse of the American, democracy. This was last week, of course. We've all heard that Trump called in the National Guard. He called it an emergency in Washington, D.C. due to the crime and Mr. Big Ballroom Dancer who got beat up trying to defend somebody from a carjacking. And then came the dictator, Trump, waltzing in, militarizing the Washington, D.C. police. From what I hear, from what everybody's saying, absolutely nothing. We have heard almost absolutely nothing. Now, let's just get a little update. This was from, when was this? Today, over on ABC News, just so we can know what's going on in Washington, D.C. Oh, boy. Let me go back.
The National Guard footprint here in Washington has been relatively sparse so far, but we are expecting an escalation in troops now that several governors have committed to deploying troops here to the nation's capital, sending them from their states. This next wave of troops is expected to join the more than 800 National Guard troops that President Trump activated just last week. Up to this point, we're told the Guardsmen have been unarmed, but defense officials say that could change if their orders change, if the nature of their mission changes.
Okay, so the National Guard's there. There's just a few of them. They're unarmed. They're just helping out with logistics, but that could all change. At any moment, these National Guardsmen can be armed and everything can change.
Particularly as the Guard footprint is expected to grow throughout the city in the coming days. The governor of West Virginia says he's sending 350 troops. The governor of Ohio says he is sending 150 troops after he was asked to do so. And the governor of South Carolina.
After he was asked, okay? He didn't volunteer. Dictator Trump asked him politely.
Also sending 200 here to Washington. Now, so far, the Guard has had a very limited role, one of supporting D.C.'s Metropolitan Police Department here. But, of course, that situation could change. The situation.
Of course. Have I mentioned the situation could change? Did I mention? Look, the dictator's sending in the military, okay? They're unarmed, but that could change. It could change at any moment. They're not really doing anything, but it could change.
It is very fluid, and
the situation is fluid.
Their roles could change as their
role. Okay, I'm sorry. Their roles can change. I don't know if you heard that part of it, but I wanted to make sure that you could hear it.
Mission and or footprint expands, Robin.
Yeah, many are watching. All right, Mola, our thanks to you.
Many are watching. Many are watching, folks. I mean, not to be, let it not be misunderstood. This was actually not a very cool thing in the end. It is interesting, and it's a good opportunity for all of us to make sure that we are staying consistent in our thoughts and our preferences about how this country is run. And I even find myself sometimes, if anybody, come on, martial law has been this has been a rallying cry of libertarians and preppers and truthers and conspiracy theorists and everybody. This martial law thing's not a good thing. Now, I don't think that anybody is calling this martial law. That's what I found very interesting. Even in the worst propagandistic presentations of the situation, very few times has martial law even been mentioned. And I wonder why. I don't know exactly why. But it's interesting, especially being longtime truthers, always keeping an eye out for martial law. It happens every so often. We had some martial law in COVID times. A lot of people would have, if not called for it, but understood martial law during the Summer of Love. These moments, this threatening of martial law is so broad and persistent over the years. Yeah, Katrina. Yeah, thank you, CM Fort. Katrina was martial law. This martial law thing, It happens every so often. And so I find it strange that those who are trying their best to make sure we all know that Trump is a dictator and a puppet of Putin, they're not throwing out this language. I don't know exactly why that bugs me. But as they sit there and critique the whole situation, they could so easily throw out the martial law phrase as sort of a trigger word, but they're not doing it. It makes me wonder if the sort of left side of the alternate dimension here don't actually want the right or Trump supporters to kind of turn on Trump or to be critical of him in that way. Because you can drop the phrase martial law, start talking about Jade Helm, these kind of trigger words. Now, let's be clear. Lots of Trump former supporters are really not big fans of this. And I don't necessarily think I'm a big fan of it either. But it does beg the question, what's really going on here? We talked about the Doge guy. This was the trigger for the whole thing. The Doge guy got beat up by some kids on the street. Kids, remember, that was the big thing, that they were youths, that there was youth crime in Washington, D.C. And in response to the crime of youths, they needed to call in the National Guard. I mean, I'm not going to go too deep in it, but it does kind of seem like something else is going on here at the same time. National Guard get calling in, the Smithsonian being, being looked at with a microscope, secret tunnels, whatever. I don't know. Is this the storm? Is the storm coming? I don't know. But just very interesting developments. Honestly, guys, I don't know what it is, but I have found it very difficult. I think that's just what it is. The psyops are strong.
State-sponsored propaganda machinery.
Brainwashing. Propaganda. This racist brainwashing propaganda.
It seems too obvious, right? We've talked about the leading by the nose that happens when the alt media, independent media, locked in a dance forever with the mainstream media, who of course is just an extension of the intelligence agencies. I don't know about you guys. I get a sense that some of you feel the same way, that to start going down the rabbit hole that they are so obviously trying to lure us down, it doesn't feel engaging. It's almost like there's some sort of truth or defense mechanism being triggered that's hidden down in the software of at least sort of, I'd say, the long-time skeptical people. People have been with us for 10 or more years. You're not new to this. You're not new to this kind of news. You're not new. It's almost like you can sense, ow! Oh! Sorry, I don't know if you on the video could see that. You just saw how I simply touched my nose. Oh! And my entire left side. Oh, it's busted now. Anyways, it's almost like you can sense that the narrative crafting, the social engineering, is too poignant. It's like too boiled down to its essence. It seems too obvious. Now, I could see if there were some maybe newbies, the people who woke up during COVID, you got a few years under your belt, and that's good. I would consider you guys, you're not newbies anymore, but there are maybe since the election a new tranche of people who are starting to think and act and look at things in this way. I'm wondering if there is some generation of narrative skeptical people who maybe don't quite have the defense mechanisms in place yet, or the skepticism of the skepticism, which can only come with years of being sort of unhealthily obsessed with trying to navigate the propaganda because they just keep doing it. I don't know. I'm not really seeing it, though, at the same time. Let me jump over here. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, it does look and feel like more preparation. Like what we're seeing now is not really the purpose or the end. I mean, obviously, the justification for the federal takeover of Washington, D.C., which, by the way, the federal government can do at any point. I'm not even saying that he's like breaking the law or doing something out of the ordinary. The federal government, according to the home rule exemptions that were written up in 1973, dictating Washington, D.C.'s independent governance from the federal government, is written right in the law. The president can basically do this more or less whenever he wants. And so it's not really that crazy. But it does seem like there's something else behind it. And so often we get to sit and live in the peace of knowing that we'll know it when we see it. There's no point really in trying to trying to predict or to dig in too deep on what that is, unless it's just for recreation, a little recreational conspiracy theorizing. And this is a strength that I feel that especially believers kind of get to build up this skill, considering, all the biblical prophecy and the intelligence agencies and the insurgents into the faith community who really try to rile up and control at least the emotions of the believing population, and this idea that we're supposed to fight back against the Antichrist, or we're supposed to fight back and stop the biblical prophecies from happening, which so obviously is not the case. And yet you see a community of, I guess, Christian presenting conspiracy theorists who kind of are operating at least on this notion that we need to stop whatever the Bible is prophesying. And, there's a balance to be made, because certainly the mainstream media likes to talk about the crazy believers who are purposefully trying to bring on the end of days. You get this talk when you talk about the red heifer and these types of things. However, we have a very special gift, and that is knowing what's going to happen, not being burdened with the, I would say, impossible task or responsibility to stop the end times or something, and to be sort of led down these paths just seems like a very well executed and elegant psychological operation to take advantage of those who perhaps are new to their faith, or perhaps are under the impression that the prophecies of the book of Revelation are to be avoided or to be stopped or something. Okay, I'm going to jump in here. We're going to jump over to our next segment. Let's see, do I have a jingle for this? That's the real question. What is the next segment? Oh, yes, that's what it is. All right, this next segment is brought to you by Sir Jamie, not the Lannister. Thank you very much, executive producer Sir Jamie. And we're going down to Brazil, baby.
Supreme Court, SCOTUS.
Oh, I cut it off. Let me do it again. Here we go. Come on.
Supreme Court, SCOTUS.
There we go. Supreme Court, baby. Now, you might be wondering, what does the Supreme Court have to do with Brazil? And I'm just going to tell you right away. It's not necessarily about the United States Supreme Court. However, we have boots on the ground folks producing the show down in Brazil. And this is Jam. Jam has been sending us all sorts of links, reports about what's going down in Brazil. And you really don't see a whole lot about Brazil, in the mainstream media, seeing very little about the Brazil details, even on social media or independent media. And I am surprised because I had said in previous episodes, I'm like trying to build a sort of understanding of what exactly is going on in Brazil. And, for many years now, we've been, kind of things have been going on down there for many years. The Bolsonaro thing, the Lula thing, the CIA thing. It's kind of tough because the CIA is everywhere in every country doing everything. And boy, oh boy, has Jam stuck with it. And like I said last episode, trying my darndest to build a report, build a full understanding. And it is just absolutely bonkers trying to do so. So God bless you, Jam, came in. But then I found an article that opened my eyes. And as an American reading this article, I'm not going to say that everything in the article is true. In fact, it is the very skills of media analysis that we have built up for so many years now, reading this positive story about what's going on in Brazil, really opened up my understanding of at least what I think is at least the spirit of what's going on down there. But first, I want to read an email from our boots on the ground producer, Jam. His Brazil update says, Basil and Gons, first of all, we need to understand why this war started. It all started a long time ago with events that began over 100 years ago and have been unfolding over the decades. See how it could be difficult to kind of try to get a full understanding of what's going on. It's over 100 years. It's like trying to understand the Ukraine thing without knowing about 2014 coup and things like that. Anyways, the events that began over 100 years ago and have been unfolding for over the decades and increasing exponentially with the election of Bolsonaro in 2018. I will summarize the best, presenting a timeline of events. Brazil's deep state is very afraid that Bolsonaro returns to the presidency. If you don't know, Bolsonaro is sort of the Brazilian Trump, who first took office in 2018, and it's been very dramatic since then. Some more details on that later. Brazil's deep state is very afraid if Bolsonaro returns to the presidency, a fear much greater than Trump's return in America. Can you see how it might be hard to understand as an American exactly the degree of what's going on in Brazil? We hear nothing about what's going on in Brazil from up here. And even the possibility that there would be any greater fear than those who feared Trump's return to the presidency in America is almost like an absurd. It's like saying there's something bigger than the universe, It's just, it has like this axiomatic fallacy to it. But not to say what Jam is telling us is untrue, but I'm just explaining why it's so hard to understand. So there you go. A fear much greater than Trump's return in America. There are powerful families that control Brazil since they overthrew Brazil's empire. Yes, Brazil was once a real and prosperous empire. Since then, those powerful families hijacked Brazil to transform it into their playground. They are the Brazil's deep state, in control of banking, state policies, and judiciary. Yeah, sounds familiar. Bolsonaro, a real outsider, an ordinary and simple man, and in his presidency, 2019 to 2022, he started to crack down on the, quote, unquestionable power of Brazil's deep state. So from the beginning of his presidency, 2019, Brazil's deep state, with the help of George Soros, started a campaign to destroy Bolsonaro, and they completely sabotaged his presidency by tying him up politically and preventing him from governing Brazil. That sounds quite familiar. Much worse than what happened with Trump. Okay. And in doing so, their power became more visible to the public. Tale as old as time, forcing them to prevent Bolsonaro from winning the 2022 elections to return their control as before. So in 2022, Brazil's Supreme Court, with the help of Biden's administration, staged a coup d'etat. They stole the certain election of Bolsonaro to put in a puppet, Lula. Remember, 2022, we were hearing all this stuff about Lula and Bolsonaro, and we had a similar problem back then trying to understand, wait, who's the good guy and who's the bad guy in this? This is very strange. Biden also sent the CIA and the U.S. military to Brazil to make several threats against Bolsonaro and Brazil armed forces to not interfere with the election results. Bolsonaro warned several times that they will try to steal the election, and they did. Lula's administration is all a facade and is crumbling. On top of that, Brazil's deep state has failed to recover from the damage caused by Bolsonaro's presidency. Their control continues to be exposed every day, and Bolsonaro is gaining a huge popularity, even among Lula's supporters. Again, sounds very familiar. Lula's Brazil's deep state puppet, barking at Trump to keep him away, but all that he does backfires, showing the farce that he is. The population is losing patience, and Lula is losing his supporters. It's like a veil is coming down. With Bolsonaro's popularity continuing to grow among the population, they took away his political credences to block him from another election, and also began to persecute him with bogus claims just to put him in jail. Bolsonaro's family is also severely persecuted, his allies also, including religious pastors. One of Bolsonaro's sons, Eduardo, is now living in Texas, also escaping the judicial persecution. He was the one who asked Trump for help, showing him all the judicial evidences of Bolsonaro's persecution and against Bolsonaro supporters. So Trump responded, entering the fight as his own fight. Trump already made 7 defenses in favor of Bolsonaro. This is not normal. Then he has a link here. Almost done. Says, I'm not going to go through the links here because I think, especially for Americans, and I expect perhaps some Europeans, this article that I'm going to bring will answer a lot of questions. To finish out Jam's background here, Trump took Bolsonaro's fight as his fight, and he fights to win. On the other hand, Brazil's deep state is fighting with all its force to survive and to eliminate the threat that Bolsonaro represents, even trying to kill him if possible. They don't hide that this is their ultimate goal. This is a war where both sides will not back down. They will double down the bet every time. We can expect events to turn upside down very fast. Brazilian politics is not easy for foreigners to understand. You're telling me. And to complicate matters further, this is not a normal economic war. It's far beyond political war or a trade war or a war for control of Brazil. Here we can feel a strong spiritual war in the air. And that's why the Brazil situation is so complex, with thousands of tentacles going everywhere. So I came to a conclusion. What we're really watching is an exorcism of a country. Brazil has been hijacked for a long time and put under the control of several entities, perhaps even principalities, which have been exposed and are fighting with all their power not to lose their host. We are at a time when an old historical cycle is being broken and a new cycle is beginning. The next events that are coming will seal this transition. I summarized the main timeline of events as much as possible to at least facilitate understanding of the real reasons behind this. I have already sent several links to corroborate this, and I will send some of the links that would be reference points that I mentioned in this email. And he sent some very distinct links there for us. Today, I want to try to lay down the basics here, because as we spoke with Sir Ike a couple of weeks ago about antimony, the principality of Azazel, the Watcher, whose sort of burden seemed to be bringing this material antimony or antimony. We then took some time to track down some antimony mining, some things going on in Brazil that, it's very true that Jam says here that this isn't just an economic war, although it is. It isn't just a political war, although it certainly is. But there's much more going on here. And I have a feeling, it is a hunch, an instinct that I have, that the timing of a lot of things coinciding with the Burning Man research trip coming up, I think there are going to be some revelations there. However, let me bring to you this story. This is coming from the Washington Post. Now, when I say this article opened my eyes or gave me understanding in a way that I was having a hard time getting through sort of Brazilian articles that Jan was sending, I am not saying that what I'm going to read to you is necessarily true. However, with the way that we have come to understand the mainstream media, we can almost get a almost supernatural sort of understand. We can see behind the veil, behind the propaganda, and it's clear as day. Let me read you this. This is coming from Washington Post. The judge who refuses to bend to Trump's will, quote, will do what's right. Right off the bat, this headline, you'd think that there's no reason to think that they're talking about Brazil, a Brazilian judge, right? With all the hullabaloo that Trump has had legally and all the hullabaloo of American district judges, going to war with Trump over immigration or this or that, there's already a strangeness that Brazil is not mentioned in the headline. The subheadline, however, does say Alexandre de Moraes says he's preserving Brazilian democracy. The White House says he's destroying it. Remember, this is Washington Post. This is from Brasilia. The judge had allowed himself a moment to relax. Okay, let's humanize this guy real quick. His beloved Corinthians soccer team was playing on television. The game wasn't particularly good, he said, but it was a useful distraction. From the American sanctions against him, the taunts from Elon Musk, and the U.S. tariffs imposed on Brazil by President Donald Trump in direct response to his work. So you may have heard about the 50% tariffs on Brazil. You may have heard about the taking away of visas and other documents by the U.S. to Brazilian individuals. And here we go, the Washington Post saying all that is directly a response to this guy's work. The brief reverie of Federal Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes was not to last. His phone began lighting up with messages. Jair Bolsonaro, the former Brazilian president awaiting trial next month on charges of leading a violent coup plot, appeared to have disobeyed an order by Moraes, barring him from social media. The judge took immediate action unilaterally, ordering the country's most popular conservative politician to be placed under house arrest. Quote, the court will not allow the defendant to make a fool of it, Moraes wrote in August 4th decision. The episode, recounted by the judge in an exclusive interview with the Washington Post, was emblematic of Moraes's rules of engagement, which have governed his conduct throughout a career marked by high-stakes battles with powerful politicians and businessmen. Never give in, always escalate. Right there, they're laying this guy out as a sort of hero, heroically, as a Supreme Court judge in his previous careers in law, heroically battling against powerful politicians and businessmen. So we're building up this sort of lore of this brave judge. As a young prosecutor, he took on Sao Paulo City Hall in a far-reaching corruption probe. As a justice on Brazil's federal Supreme Court, he has clashed with Bolsonaro, Musk, and other luminaries of the global right. There's a term we can keep track of, global right. Now his opponent is none other than the President of the United States, describing Moraes's prosecution of Bolsonaro as a witch hunt and his campaign against online disinformation as an assault on free speech. Moraes's campaign against online disinformation being called an assault on free speech. Well, it's Trump, so we know that the judge is the good guy in this case. Trump has turned the full force of the United States' economic and diplomatic might against Brazil. He's levied a 50% tariff on Brazilian goods. His administration has revoked Moraes's U.S. visa. Late last month, the Treasury Department took an extraordinary step of sanctioning him under the Magnitsky Act, which has traditionally been used against those accused of gross human rights abuses. So already we know if Trump hates him, he must be a good guy. And if Trump is, using the law against this good guy, it's Trump who's the dictator. Let's continue. The judge has not been deterred. Oh, so brave. Quote, there isn't the smallest of possibilities of retreating even 1 millimeter, Moraes told the Post in a rare hour-long interview inside his chambers this month. So keep in mind, this is all coming from an exclusive 1-hour interview with the Post with Moraes in Brazil, inside of his chambers. Keep that all in mind as we continue. Quote, we'll do what's right. We'll receive the accusation, analyze the evidence, and who should be convicted shall be convicted, and who should be absolved should be absolved. I'm curious. I'm wondering if the judge thinks he should be absolved. Empowered by the Supreme Court to investigate digital, verbal, and physical threats against Brazil's democratic order, Moraes has become a national authority unto himself, as well as something of a globally unique figure, a sheriff of democracy. So there's this judge, and we'll learn soon exactly how he's done the things that he's done. A single judge, and in the United States, we push back against a district judge, but this guy's a Supreme Court judge. And as he's investigating digital, verbal, and physical threats against the democratic order, he's not even saying the, politicians, the Democratic whatever party, there's not one down there, but whenever you see this democratic order, it's like Hillary Clinton talking about our democracy. And he was even, what's his name? Jamie Raskin, who came out and revealed to all of us that when they say democracy, they mean the collection of institutions that are in power. It's not democracy as in voting. It's not democracy as in, the ethereal idea that humans can self-govern. Like, we might think of democracy. Jamie Raskin revealed to all of us that the sort of elites, especially on this sort of global left, if we're going to call it that, when they say democracy, they mean us. They mean power. They mean authority. They mean institutions. And in response, we might say, okay, well, it's not really about institutions. If an institution is not serving its people, democracy should say it should go. But we know that this WEF or, global left, to use their own parlance, Klaus Schwab, these types of people, when they say democracy or democratic order, they mean power. Moraes has become a national authority unto himself. And they're saying this sort of as a good thing. This brave man who has taken on the powerful, is fighting dictators, has become a national authority unto himself, as well as something of a globally unique figure, a sheriff of democracy. Is that what we're calling like dictators these days? If that's the case, then Trump must be a sheriff of democracy. That's some very beautiful spin to put on authoritarian political figures. Keep in mind, this guy is not a political figure. He's a judicial figure. His expansive edicts, they say it right here. His expansive edicts. Who gives edicts? Tyrants. Have reverberated around the world in societies increasingly polarized by debates over free speech, technology, and the power of the state. He has suspended social media platforms, most notably X, leading Musk to brand him Brazil's Darth Vader. He has ordered the arrest of current and former office holders. And they actually get into it in a second. Remember, this is a judge. This is not a elected politician. This is not a law enforcement officer. This is not, the head of an intelligence agency. This is not the chief of police. This is a judge who has ordered the arrest of current and former office holders and unilaterally removed the governor of Brasilia after thousands of Bolsonaro supporters stormed the Capitol in 2023. A judge unilaterally taking down a governor of what amounts to a state down there. What does that sound like? Does that sound like a sheriff of democracy? Does that sound like a democratic institution where one man who has found himself at the top of his game can single-handedly take out governors, single-handedly arrest current and former office holders? The way the Washington Post talks about this guy so clearly paints a picture where they are trying to defend and justify, honestly, one of the most egregious displays of autocracy that we see in modern times. I mean, that's like what Putin does. I mean, forget Trump. Putin arrests office holders, current and former. We see it all the time. Putin unilaterally removes governors from provinces. And now, by sending the former president into house arrest and blocking him from social media, he has effectively muzzled one of the world's most recognizable right-wing figures. And when we read this, he's muzzled one of the world's most recognizable right-wing figures, what comes to our mind? Muzzled? He's talking about a politician he doesn't agree with as a dog who needs to be muzzled. But those who read the Washington Post see this as, oh, good thing we have that sheriff of democracy so we can go around and shut the mouths of those right-wing dogs. Or give them house arrest. Get them kennel trained. To understand how Moraes rose from an ordinary middle-class background to become the most powerful jurist in Brazilian history, and for clues about where his prosecutions could lead Latin America's largest democracy, the Post interviewed 12 of Moraes' friends and colleagues, past and present, many of whom spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive matters. Most defended Moraes, saying his hardline measures had helped preserve Brazilian democracy at a time when authoritarianism is rising across the globe. Well, they've already told us what he was doing. It's very similar to what we see in the United States. In order to defend democracy, we must destroy democracy. In order to, especially now with the gerrymandering stuff, where Gavin Newsom is coming in, who's that other guy from Texas? Beto O'Rourke. They're coming out and saying, well, if Texas is going to gerrymander and break the rules, then we must break the rules harder and better and faster. We're going to cheat. We're going to cheat to win. Woo! And everybody's cheering them on. Very same thing here. He's preserving Brazilian democracy at a time when authoritarianism is rising across the globe. Yeah, it's rising in Brazil. And this guy's not even a politician. We thought that there's a judicial coup here in the U.S. over the past 6 months. The judicial coup, and you got to remember, when we talk about movements like these trends in geopolitics and things like this, they're experimenting. You know, over COVID, they kind of realized that, as lots of people are learning with Trump, as Trump is trying to perhaps push the bounds of what is normal for a president, the authority that a president can wield. And by normal, I mean typical. That's what they say all the time. Oh, he's breaking the rules. He's breaking the norms. Oh, it's horrible. Well, let's listen to this guy. Quote, I'm saddened by the deterioration of the institution. Did I skip one? No, I didn't. Let me back up. Most defended Moraes, saying his hardline measures had helped preserve Brazilian democracy at a time when authoritarianism is rising across the globe. But others said he had become too powerful and was guilty of overreach, imperiling the legitimacy of the country's highest court. Quote, I'm saddened by the deterioration of the institution, said Marco Aurelio Mayo, who retired from the federal Supreme Court in 2021 after 31 years. History is ruthless, he continued. It settles the score later. Remember 2021, because it becomes important later. Sipping coffee inside his book-lined chambers, Moraes dissented. Brazil had been infected by the, quote, disease of autocracy, he said, and it was his job to apply the, quote, vaccine. Even in their own metaphor. What is a vaccine? Let's take away mRNA. We'll talk about the traditional definition of a vaccine. Well, they take a little bit of a disease, perhaps a dead version, but a little piece of the disease. They inject it right into the arms, like Bill Gates loves to do those children. And the presence of that disease, just in a little bit, your body fights it off, learns how to fight it off so it can fight it off more later. So if this guy is calling himself the vaccine for autocracy, he is saying in his own words, I'm a little bit autocratic. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a dictator. I'm just a little bit of a dictator so we can defeat dictatorships. A little bit of an autocrat so we can defeat autocracy. We're looking at this global influence of what we saw in the United States during this last election and beyond. Quote, there is no way we will back off from what we must do, he said. Sounds like a dictator to me. Remember, this guy's not even the president. He's not even a politician. He is a judge. Quote, I say this with complete tranquility. Tranquilo. An extraordinary moment. In early 2019, Dias Toffoli, then the president of the Federal Supreme Court, telephoned Moraes, the most junior member of his court, with an urgent request. There was a problem, Toffoli told Moraes, and he might be the one to resolve it, according to people familiar with the conversation. So Moraes, he was a junior member of the court in 2019. Brazil's institutions, already squeezed by successive corruption probes and political scandals, were reckoning with the rapid political rise of Jair Bolsonaro, an unabashed apologist for the country's former military dictatorship. Now look, I don't know much about Bolsonaro, and I am not here to say Bolsonaro is a good guy. But I do know from many years of experience, when the Washington Post says someone is a fan of military dictatorship, that usually means that they're not a fan of military dictatorship. Perhaps they said something good about a previous politician. Perhaps they said maybe something good came when they had a coup and someone bad got taken out of office. Perhaps. I'm sure you can build the narrative. I understand. But from what I know about the Washington Post, if the Washington Post says someone is a dictator and loves coup d'etats, it probably is not the way that they describe it. And in the same hand, the other hand, I guess, when the Washington Post calls someone a sheriff of democracy, it probably means they're a dictator. Okay. This is just what we know. This is what we've learned. This article is really a beautiful example of just how absolutely opposite, absolutely opposed. I mean, it's almost like it reveals itself as a negative on film. You look at it and you know what the picture is, like your brain puts it together. I guess this is kind of for old people or young, cool, hip people who take pictures with film. When you look at the negative of a picture, you're seeing the shape of it, but all the colors are wrong. Much like when you look at this article, you're seeing the picture, but the colors are reversed. Red is blue, blue is red. Sheriff of democracy is autocracy. Autocracy is populism. I can't unsee it now. And maybe calling the mainstream media a film negative of the truth might be the best metaphor that anybody has ever uttered. I would never say that, of course, never say something as aggrandizing of myself, but I think that's pretty accurate. His campaign had mainstreamed, again, this is about Bolsonaro. His campaign has mainstreamed a once fringe segment of the population that favored a return to military rule. Again, doubt it. I doubt that those are true details. I believe that you have crafted a great narrative and you have painted a picture based on disparate details or quotes or whatever. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. But because we know we're looking at a film negative of the story, I just doubt that that's the truth. His son, Eduardo, one of his most high-profile surrogates, remember Jam mentioned Eduardo in the chat, in the email he sent, had taken aim at Brazil's high court, saying it could be shut down with 2 soldiers. Quote, "What is the Supreme Court anyway?" Eduardo said in 2019. Quote, "If you arrest a justice, do you think there will be popular protest?" Is that saying that it could be shut down with 2 soldiers? I think he's making a point about how the Supreme Court is not supported by the public, is what that phrase says to me, but okay. Here we go. Love it. Here's the trigger words. Misinformation, threats, and calls to disband the court were suddenly flourishing on social media. Oh no, a population didn't like the corrupt institutions that were running their country? Shut it down. The Supreme Court had already upped its security measures, purchasing a fleet of armored vehicles and tear gas guns. Great. That seems like what an innocent Supreme Court does. But Toffoli wanted to do more. Toffoli was the president of the Supreme Court in 2019 when he came to Moraes, a junior member. So this is head honcho, scared because his country, the population of his country, doesn't think that the Supreme Court is serving the people. So he gets armored vehicles, tear gas guns, and then comes to this junior judge, Moraes, and picks him to do whatever's going to happen next. He decided the court and the country needed a shield, an investigation into, quote, fake news and anti-democratic rhetoric. They're so scared of, quote unquote, fake news, which, okay, what is that? And anti-democratic rhetoric. What? This is the craziest, globalist, tyrannical, reading Washington Post's like puff piece defending the Supreme Court of Brazil does nothing but to reveal a weak, scared, corrupt institution who is afraid of speech. They cannot survive speech. If your institution, if your, quote, democratic institution cannot survive speech on the internet, maybe there's something wrong. You know what can survive speech? Real democratic institutions. And Moraes, who'd spent much of his career in law enforcement, should be the one to wield it, Toffoli later explained. So the president of the Federal Supreme Court, 2019, took a junior judge and said, you are the guy. You are the guy who is going to wield investigations into fake news, anti-democratic rhetoric. You will defend us from speech. Toffoli declined to comment for this article. Opening the investigation. Now listen to this part. Opening the investigation, which Toffoli has called the most difficult decision of his tenure, marked a sharp break with precedent. Democratic norms, democratic norms. Well, the Supreme Court was so afraid of free speech that they broke precedent. They did something they had never done before. The court doesn't traditionally have the authority. Listen to Washington Post here. The court doesn't traditionally have the authority. You just say the court doesn't have the authority. There's no reason for it traditionally to be in there. The court didn't have the authority to launch its own investigations. That's not how the judiciary works. And cases are normally distributed by a lottery system, but his fellow justices concurred. Oh, really? All the justices came together and said, let's break the law and make the federal Supreme Court the most powerful autocratic institution in Brazil by a vote of 10-1. That the classified probe was vital. Of course, it's classified. It's got to be secret. They haven't even told us what the probe is yet, by the way. They said they're so scared of speech that they broke the law to launch their own investigation. And instead of following the law and letting this investigation be distributed with a lottery system, you know, like normal first world legal systems do, but his fellow justices concurred by a vote of 10-1. And their implication there is because 10 voted to break the law, that it was the noble thing to do, which is totally opposite of every single time the left wants to make a point about bravery. It's a vote 10-1 to break the law, and they're saying that the 10 were the brave, valiant ones. In every other historical situation, the one guy is the heroic one. The one guy is almost always the hero of the story. Quote, "We were completely unprotected. It was an extraordinary moment," said a senior judiciary official. Quote, "If the court didn't have an instrument to defend itself, if it was just depending on the police or the prosecutors, it was fried." The Supreme Court, he said himself, were unprotected. You mean besides the armored vehicles? You mean besides the tear gas? You mean besides inventing the authority for yourself to silence speech and open investigations? Secret ones? It's a secret classified investigation. This is like as autocratic as you can possibly get. And he talks about it as if it's some historic, heroic moment that 10 scared dudes who know their country doesn't like them, 10 scared robe-wearing, I'll leave it there, foppish dandies or whatever, who are so scared of speech that they get armored vehicles and tear gas. They're so scared of speech that they all vote so heroically to break the law, change the law, do something that's never been done. Because if it was just depending on the police or the prosecutors, you know, the ones who usually do investigations, the ones who usually bring cases and start investigations and play a vital role in a legal system, if they had to rely on the legal system, these 10 power-hungry, scared puppies were fried, he said. That's his quote. I mean, for me, as an American, and thankfully one that has a sense for what's actually going on when you're reading the mainstream media, they're defending this. This really started helping me understand what Brazil's dealing with, and as we'll learn soon, what Trump is dealing with down there. Melo was the lone dissenting voice. This is the hero, the one guy who voted against his fellow autocrats. Quote, "It was an investigation that, in my view, was wrongly initiated," he told the Post. "In launching the inquiry, Moraes had a diverse set of tools." They literally said that it wasn't even a tool that they were allowed to do. They invented the tool for themselves. Unlike the US Supreme Court, which only adjudicates, you know, like Supreme Courts do, Brazil's highest court is empowered to carry out investigations and has the federal police force at its disposal. Listen to the way they write that. They just told us that the court can't do this, that it couldn't do this, that this was not something within its authority. And now they start speaking as if it's a power they already had, as if they are just doing what they're supposed to do. WAPO is truly, I mean, this is insidious the way they are reporting this. They just told us they couldn't do this. And now they're saying, oh, well, now they're empowered to carry out investigations and has the federal police force at its disposal. That's a coup, folks. That is a coup. When the judiciary votes to break the rules and takes control of a police force, what's a coup d'etat? Is when a politician takes control of the military. When judges take control of the federal police force, That is a coup. Moraes could also draw upon a legislative framework that defines freedom of speech more narrowly than in the United States and provides legal protections for the democratic state. Now you're gonna hear how much this guy loves the U.S. Constitution. He's gonna go into it in a second. But keep in mind, the Constitution in America protects the people from the government. That's the whole point. The whole thing, line after line, is the government can't do this. The government can't do this. The people are protected from the government. The document is to say no to the government over and over and over. And the Washington Post here says this Moraes guy, he can draw upon a legislative framework that defines freedom of speech more narrowly, no kidding, than the United States and provides legal protections for the democratic state. Their constitution provides protections for the state. Quote, I understand for an American culture, it's more difficult to understand the fragility of democracy because there's never been a coup there, said Moraes. That's an interesting insight. This crazy judge apparently doesn't think that January 6th was a coup. Interesting. Quote, but Brazil had years of dictatorships under President Getúlio Vargas, another 20 years of military dictatorship, and innumerable coup attempts. Yeah, no kidding. So what he's saying is that what he's doing is just another in a long line of coup attempts. These coup attempts happen all the time. So we just did it from the judiciary. When you're much more attacked by a disease, remember when the left in America was like, these right-wing psychos, they keep calling people vermin. That's straight from Mein Kampf. Look, Trump said that his enemies are a virus. That's Hitler talk. Well, here's this guy calling free speech a disease. You form tougher antibodies and you seek out a preventive vaccine. I think his mention of vaccines multiple times in this article is very telling. I think it's very telling about what his milieu is, who he's working for, who his masters are, what trigger words, sort of trigger his supporters. You're right. We as Americans don't understand what you're saying. Moraes wasted no time. Within a month, great. Moraes wasted no time. Within a month, he'd ordered a first batch of social media accounts to be taken offline. Democracy! Then came a sweeping operation against dozens of Bolsonaro's most vocal supporters. Democracy! Right-wing bloggers, influencers, politicians, whom he accused of being behind threats against the court and disinformation endangering democracy. This is psychotic. The president's own education minister was named a target after he urged the imprisonment of Supreme Court justices. Yeah, perhaps, I don't know, perhaps he saw a judicial coup where the judges voted to give themselves dictatorial powers, took over the federal police, and said, hey, we probably shouldn't let the Supreme Court commit a coup in our country and overthrow a democratically elected government. We probably shouldn't let that happen, said the president's own education minister. Moraes then ordered the arrest of a sitting congressman who defended the military dictatorship's repressive rule. Again, a little bit of autocracy to defend democracy. What is defended military dictatorship's repressive rule? Like, what does that mean? What does that even mean? To defend a military dictatorship's repressive rule? Did he just say it wasn't that bad? Did he say, well, at least we had running water back then? Did he say, what did he say? That doesn't mean anything, Washington Post. As Moraes' investigation deepened, so did his power. Sounds like democracy to me. The more a judge sticks the federal police on those whoever he chooses to investigate, the more he does that, the more powerful he gets. I mean, he even said, where was it? Then came sweeping operation against dozens of Bolsonaro's most vocal supporters, right-wing bloggers, influencers, politicians, whom he accused. Can you imagine? Just a guy, a Supreme Court guy who's taken over the police. He can just accuse people of being behind threats. This is horrifying. As Moraes' investigation deepened, so did his power. Brazil's judicial system often groups similar cases together under one judge, and Moraes was soon in charge of virtually every inquiry into alleged attacks on democratic order, speech, by the way, by Bolsonaro and his supporters. So he gets to make the accusation. He gets to start the investigation, and he gets to be the judge over those cases. What a hero of democracy. Then he rose to become president of the Electoral Supreme Court, which operates in parallel to the federal court and has the power to investigate election-related misconduct and to bar politicians from office. Insane. We're almost done here. Hold on one second. Oh, you know what? Shoot. Oh, no. I might have to take this call real quick. Let me see. How much we... Oh, there's more. Dude, you know, I could just go and go and go and go on this. It just doesn't end. The more I jump into this Brazil thing, just the crazier and crazier it gets. And this guy having the gall to come out and do what he's doing. I understand now how Jam could be so insistent. This is an important story. All right, guys, I gotta put you on hold for 1 second. I gotta see what I'm getting multiple calls here, and I don't want that to be a bad thing to miss. So I'll be back. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, I'm back. Here we go. Hold on. Hold tight. Ow, my arm. Oh, my body, my poor body. Okay. I'm back. I think you guys should hear me. Okay. I should have played Feeding the Ducks. I can't believe I didn't do that. Ow. Ugh. It's hard to even get my headphones on and off. This is horrible. Let me just, after all this, folks, let me tell you, it gets worse and worse and worse. Talks about, Trump putting the, Trump kind of seeing what's going on and thinking, I want to defend autocracy. I want to defend other dictators. So he goes in there and levies tariffs and things like that. When, as we can see, as we've been shown by the Washington Post themselves, that is a narrative that is wholly crafted out of the film negative of the story. Let me see if there's anything here. Talks about his mentor who had all these nice things to say about him. He has an incredible capacity for work. He works every weekend. He was a savage guy when he started in law. You see this. Quote, we both came from the middle class. We were never rich, said one longtime friend. And we'd finally gotten some financial security. So I was shocked that he'd let go of this for a political position that could end in a few months. He said he had to risk it. So his friends saw him as this money-hungry, sort of dangerously ambitious guy going into politics. Quote, he always wanted to be on the Supreme Court, another old friend added. Once installed, he made it his crusade to defend the institution and was quickly pulled into an escalating struggle of ego and will with Bolsonaro. In August 2021, that was almost the same month that the one dissenting vote, the one Supreme Court guy who said, no, we shouldn't give ourselves the power to be judge, jury, and executioner. That doesn't seem like a good democratic thing to do. Then they don't have the details whether he was kicked off the Supreme Court or what happened, but he wasn't on the Supreme Court anymore. And basically the same month, 2021, as the president began assailing Brazil's voting system during his campaign for re-election against leftist Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, Moraes named Bolsonaro as an investigatory target. Basically the same month that the one dissenting Supreme Court guy said, no, we shouldn't be dictators on the Supreme Court. That guy's gone, and they open the investigation into Bolsonaro. This Washington Post thing is crazy. I can't add any more to that. Tells the story about Bolsonaro, his many, many problems, the investigations, the court proceedings. Now, let me do this. After Bolsonaro lost, thousands of his supporters, very interesting, questioning the electoral methods, like we're seeing Trump do. After Bolsonaro lost, thousands of his supporters, convinced the election had been stolen, overran Brasilia's federal buildings in a riot that recalled January 6th, storming of the U.S. Capitol. Yeah, would love to see the details on that. It was Moraes who oversaw the proceedings that barred Bolsonaro from public office. Not only could this guy open up an investigation into the president, but could bar him from running for any office ever again. It's just a lot of power. It's a lot of power for one guy to give himself. You look into the history of dictators, they tend to find ways to give themselves the power. We are in the sort of new world version of this, right? Like the narrative, the mainstream narrative is always talking about dictators as political dictators, as presidents, as politicians, that they are politicians and then they become dictators, right? And it's very 20th century. It's very like World War II. It's very 1980s. It's very, it's very Federal Reserve-y that, if you want to take control of a place and you want to do whatever you want, if you want to become a dictator, you have to be the president first. That's the story we see over and over and over. In fact, the CIA, our own CIA, has sort of done that innumerable times around the world. They want to get a dictator who's got the US's interests at heart. And so they first get him to win a democratic election. And I'm not saying anything that isn't like already known. The CIA is very good at winning elections for whoever they want to win the election. Ukraine 2014 is a great example of that. Whether or not, it doesn't even have to be like rigging machines or anything. Not saying that's out of the question, but it doesn't have to be that. Even as far as the official story about the CIA in Ukraine in 2014, the CIA funded the entire social movement, the color revolution. There would have been no cultural revolution in Ukraine if it wasn't for the CIA and Victoria Nuland. Right? So we know this is how it works. But now, in the 21st century, in this new world order, as we're marching into technocracy and stuff like that, and the one world order and the WEF and Build Back Better and all this sort of stuff, this is new. It's a new spell. It's a new ritual. Whereas you don't actually need to get a guy in office to take over. You can just get a judge. You can wield the law. You can wield the law in unique ways to where a dictator doesn't even have to be a politician or a president. Now it can just kind of be a judge, a legal wizard. I mean, I'm not even going to dive all the way into my thesis on legal systems and witchcraft and writing and Thoth and the Watchers and the esoterics and the legal profession and laws being written in the same format and ways that grimoires, books of spells, were written in the medieval times. You can make those connections yourself. This is a beautiful example that we are in a new world order. And you don't have to be a politician to rule the world. You can be a tech bro. You can be a CEO of Palantir. Or you can be a judge who's just got the cojones to say, yeah, I can do whatever I want now. He then took command of the investigation that culminated last year in the allegations that Bolsonaro plotted to retain power by military force and assassinate his political rivals. The judge, he is the judge, he is the prosecutor, he is the investigator. It's just crazy. Of course, that guy is going to find whatever he wants to find. I had no stake in this game. I mean, I was interested specifically because of our Brazilian producers. I was interested, and I think there's a lot here. Just in general, just like on principle, these are things we should keep an eye out for, because we're seeing similar attempts in our own country for exactly these things. We've been seeing the trend of the Supreme Court drama, personalizing the Supreme Court, politicizing the Supreme Court here in the United States, and things move slower here in the US. The Democrats talking about stacking the Supreme Court. Even the moves right now where the Supreme Court, not even Trump, the Supreme Court pulling back on abortion precedent, not law. The judge doesn't make law, but pulling back on the precedent for abortion law. That was just the Supreme Court just doing it. And now there's even talk of the Supreme Court pulling back on gay marriage law. So you've got the global left. We're watching this happen in the judiciary in Brazil. At the same time, here in the United States, there seems to be a plan playing out to, I think, pull back any American support, broad American support. I mean, if the Supreme Court ends up repealing the precedent for gay marriage equality in the United States, you're going to have a lot of people calling for the disbanding of the Supreme Court or the stacking or whatever. This 21st century, we are moving into global rule by judiciary, not by politicians. Not even by military. Bolsonaro, who hasn't granted any interviews since entering house arrest, has denied the charges and says he is a victim of political persecution. Quote, "This is a due legal process," Moraes countered. It's just due process. Having one guy be the judge, jury, and executioner. It's just due process. Quote, 179 witnesses have already been heard. Oh, okay. As probes multiplied and expanded and pushback mounted online, Moraes took a wider array of opponents. First came Musk, who last year refused to comply with Moraes' order to take down accounts on X that the judge said were threatening Brazil's democratic order. Again, they don't actually name any offenses. They're just saying, yeah, the judge thought it threatened democracy. The judge said it threatened the democratic order. The judge said, it's just the judge said. In February, he suspended Rumble on a platform popular among conservatives that shares servers with Truth Social after it resisted takedown orders. The standoffs raised Moraes' global profile and caught the attention of Trump. "This man is out of control," said Martin DeLuca, the lead counsel for Rumble and Trump media in the lawsuit against Moraes. Pressed on whether he had too much power, Moraes dismissed the notion. Of course he does. He doesn't think he has too much power. He thinks he doesn't have enough. He said his Supreme Court colleagues had reviewed more than 700 of his orders following appeals. Quote, "You know how many I've lost?" he asked. "Not a single one." Yeah, because you're a dictator. For those who just missed that part, he's saying, on the appeals of the decisions that I have made, when I make a decision, find somebody guilty, they come back, they appeal it. His other Supreme Court colleagues, the other 9 that voted to give them supreme power, all of them except for the one guy who suddenly was no longer in the Supreme Court, those 9 other people that agreed with him that they should have supreme power, they checked his work and they agreed. He's great. He's batting 1,000. Not a single one, he says. He says he's literally 100% right on all of his judgments. How is that not a mind-blowing clue to the Washington Post and anybody else? that this probably ain't the way. It is insane. Now, listen to this. Okay, I mentioned this part earlier. Talk about the Constitution. The acrimony isn't mutual, Moraes said. On the wood-paneled wall outside his chambers, he'd hung only 3 documents: the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the preamble to the U.S. Constitution. He's hanging up the U.S. constitutional documents outside of his office. I mean, again, you want to talk about witchcraft and amulets and like totem magic, and he's literally shielding his chambers with these like magical documents. Moraes said he's always looked for inspiration in the history of American governance, expounding on the works of John Jay, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison. Quote, every constitutionalist has a great admiration for the United States, the judge said. That's horrifying. I mean, they're putting this in the article because they want us Americans to think, oh, well, he loves the American Constitution, so he must be great. This is a great guy. We should have him up here in the United States. How crazy backwards world, newspeak, clown world, upside down, occult nonsense is this? He said Brazil and the United States were friends. The winding rift between them, he believed, was temporary, driven by politics and the sort of disinformation he had spent years trying to stifle. He spent years trying to stifle disinformation, but that pesky disinformation just keeps driving a wedge between him and America. He singled out Eduardo Bolsonaro with financing from his father. The federal congressman has run a rogue diplomatic campaign urging U.S. hostilities against Brazil and sanctions against Moraes. Oh, my God. Eduardo, who was called Moraes a gangster in a robe, but didn't respond to a request for comment. Quote, these false narratives have ended up poisoning the relationship. False narratives supported by disinformation spread by these people on social media. Moraes said, speech is so dangerous. It's crazy. Quote, so what we need to do and what Brazil is doing is clarifying things. No, we're not creating a judicial autocracy through a federal coup, taking over law enforcement where one man gets to make all the decisions and the 9 other guys he's supposed to share responsibility with all agree that he has made 100% correct decisions in all of his work because he's just that good. Okay, stop asking questions. And if you don't think it's true, that's dangerous disinformation and you're a danger to democracy. And me, I'm just clarifying things. Okay, there's just a little mix up. We just gotta clarify. Moraes thought for a moment about the loss of personal freedoms, his growing list of enemies, the travel restrictions. The loss of personal freedoms that he's thinking about here is not the loss of the personal freedoms of everybody that he's affecting and hunting down for wrong think and speech. No, he's talking about his own personal freedoms. The fact he's not allowed to go to the United States. They took his visa. The sanctions that the U.S. has now put on him. He thought for a moment about his loss of personal freedoms, his growing list of enemies and travel restrictions. Quote, is this pleasant to go through, he said. Quote, of course it's not pleasant, but Brazil was up against powerful forces that wanted to, you guessed it, undo democracy, Moraes said, and it was his job to stop them. Quote, for as long as there is a necessity. Listen to this. It is the last line of this whole thing. For as long as is a necessity, he said, the investigation will continue. As long as there are people saying mean things about him, as long as he can discern that there's dangerous speech going on online, as long as people disagree with the way he is running things, the investigation will continue. It ends with his declaration that he is going to be permanently in the state of power. Absolutely crazy. Well, thank you, Jam, for keeping on it. Thank you for that introduction. Honestly, I'd read maybe a dozen or more of the articles that over the past couple of weeks, and all the details are crazy. I mean, there's so many different angles to this thing. There's so many different facets of this gem of what's going on. Like I said, you can get into the more political side. You can get into the economic side. You can get into the tariffs. You can get into the trade war side. You can get into the mining aspect, like Sir Ike was saying. You can get into the geopolitics, the geopolitics, the China aspect of this is huge too. But I thought this part, especially about this sort of main character and the really drastic lengths that the Wall Street Journal, who had the exclusive, nobody else got to talk to him, just the Wall Street Journal. Sorry, Washington Post, not the Wall Street Journal. Just the Washington Post got the exclusive. And man, he's a hero. I'm glad we know about him because of WAPO. All right, folks, there we go. You know what? I want to thank... I thanked our executive producers before, but here's the thing. We are on the value for value model, which is very important. And I don't think anybody should forget it.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
That's right, folks. We're on the value for value model, which means we don't take any money from commies, cartels, Brazil, judges, corporations, nothing. No advertisements, no sponsorships, no platform partnerships, none of that, because monetizing your attention, monetizing your consciousness, monetizing your trust, spiritually for us makes us very uneasy. And working within that system, the beast system, that is so excited to monetize the very things that you cannot get more of, right? You cannot get more of your consciousness. You cannot get more of your time. When your time is taken away from you, that is a permanent resource that can never get back. Same with your trust. When your trust is taken from you, that's done, baby. That is it. And is it any wonder that in this weird reality that we live in, where there are blood-sucking vampires who find every little way that they can wiggle into your brain, wiggle into your dreams, wiggle into your eyesight, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, somebody's advertising to you, somebody's gathering your data, somebody is taking the very inalienable things that guarantee that you are a human, the value you can't get back. But now here, it's value for value, which means we do what we do as often as we can and as best we can. And the reality is that the producer of this show, that's you, if you get any value, the only way that you'll see another day of this show, not of your life, is to become a producer of the show. You can do it in any way you want. There's literally no rules. You like to say you can produce a show with your time, your talent, or your treasure. It's just a good way of saying whatever it is that God has given you that represents value, that is at your disposal, you can become a producer of the show. I want to read this note from the Canary Cry Tech team. Hello, this is from Sir Rightfoot Joy here. He started the Canary Cry Tech Team, and it's open for business if anybody's interested. If you're a tech-savvy person, if you're a trend-savvy person, if you just want to get involved with your time, there's lots of ways to do it. But this comes from the Canary Cry Tech Team, says, attention Canary Cry producers, do you want to help the show with tech and related solutions? Are you ready? Are you already taking steps to help the show with its unique technical challenges? Join the Canary Cry Tech Team. Let's coordinate our efforts and pool our skills and resources to bring the best tech solutions to the show. Basil and Gons deserve to have tech they don't have to fight. The Canary Cry Tech Team is growing, and we are looking for anyone who has a heart to help in that area. We are looking for people in 3 categories of talent. 1, anyone who has technical skills of any kind. 2, anyone who has creative skills, specifically artists and jingle makers. Hello. This is cool. I like what I'm hearing here. 3, producers who are willing to commit to praying for the tech team and the flow of the show. Sir Rightfoot Joy understands the vibe around here, folks. It's not just coders or, people who work in the tech booth at the church on the tech team. It takes everything. It takes everybody. Please send an email to canarycrytechteam@gmail.com. canarycrytechteam@gmail.com and let us know how you would like to help. Thank you for your attention to this matter from the Canary Cry Tech Team. P.S. I'd like to give a shout out to Joe and Max who have joined the tech team. Big shout out to Joe and Max. Thank you guys. This is very cool. I highly suggest. Again, you don't have to be a computer whiz. You don't got to be some sort of savant, technical savant. There are lots of ways to get involved. Time, talent, treasure. Send an email to canarycrytechteam@gmail.com. Of course, big old thank you to our executive producers who we got to thank earlier in the show, but they are coming in. You know what? First, I want to thank our monthly producers. Everybody who comes in says, you know what? I get it. I like it. I get value. I want it to exist continually. And they sign up to support the show for any amount, even a buck, whatever it is that God's calling them to get involved, but to come in, make that commitment and say, yes, I'm here. Let's do this. Let's do this together on an ongoing basis. And it's value for value. You decide what value you get. You decide what you're putting back in. You can learn all about it. Join up monthly. Oh, by the way, the Amber J producership challenge is still going. So every single new monthly producer that comes in, signs up, they are instantly matched for 12 months, thanks to Amber J. So it's a great time to do that. And we're running out of time. That ends at the end of August. So, but you can go learn about it at canarycry.support. Oh no, the jingle's starting late again. Okay. Let's thank our executive producers.
Executive producers.
That's right. Our executive producers are those who come in and support any individual episode with $100 or more. We thank them. Right now, of course, we have the one and only Sir Alex Protocol V2, Baron of the Berean Protocol. Thank you very much. Sir Alex Protocol comes in for $100.33, and he's on a 417 episode streak with a 71 episode executive producer streak. Thank you. We also have executive producer Sir Jamie, not the Lannister, coming in for his weekly tithe. Appreciate that very much, Sir Jamie. And let's see, we've got some producers who come in under that amount, which if you come in over $7.77, you get a note read on the show if you'd like. But if you come in under that, we will keep your streak going, of course. But let's see, who do we got there? We have the American Hobo coming in. Thank you very much, American Hobo. Coming in for $23.32. Oh, goodness gracious. This is unacceptable. Let me see if I can rectify this real quick. The American Hobo comes in, of course, for $23.32. But is on a 33 episode streak. A 33. episode streak, and Gons is not here. Here we go. Let's see if I can find it. He's not here to play the 33 jingle. Lizard Master Chill. Come on. Come on, Basil. You gotta find it, buddy. Let's see. 33 jingle. Jingle. Come on. Oh, there it is. I think I see it. Oh, I found one of them. I found one. All right, here we go. I could not let another 33 streaker go unrecognized just because Gons is not here. Let's see. This sounds a little different, but that's what you get. You're going to get your very own unique. We got to start working in. We have so many jingles that don't even get played. Here you go. The American Hobo.
Illuminated Lizard Master Shell. Chill. Illuminated Lizard Master Shell. Chill. Lizard.
You've done it, the American Hobo. 33 episodes in a row. Thank you very much. Next up, we've got producer Leslie H. comes in for 2222. Thank you very much. Leslie H. I did not see a note or anything, but I'm happy to go in there and look again if you sent one. But thank you. Of course, we have Vasilios T. comes in for 3333. Signed up for the supply drop. Thank you very much. Folks, if you don't know, you got to know. Go to canarycrysupply.com and check it out. This is one of our most popular and highly retentioned monthly producerships. Let me see if I can get in there. canarycrysupply.com. Wow, I can actually type in this headset too. That's kind of fun. Here you go, canarycrysupply.com. Go check it out. It's for those producers who get value and want to put value back in. And if you sign up for $33.33 a month, you'll start getting packages from us every quarter. We've got Canarians on the job who are making products, manufacturing products, manufacturing and supplying products. Sometimes it's hats, the Gons prayer hat. Oh man, we got to do something. We have some extra Gons prayer hats. We got to do some sort of thing. Anyways, you get the deal. Go to canarycrysupply.com. Support the show. You get a bunch of fun stuff. People love this. And you will too, I promise. Thank you very much. Vasilios T. We also had Sir Darren out of the Hungry Panda come in, sign up for the supply drop as well. Thank you very much, Sir Darren. Last but not least on the list here, we've got Sir Casey the Shield Knight came in for $7.77. And let's see here. Oh, he's on a 562 episode streak. That's crazy. Gotta get Gons to send me a streak jingle here. I don't even have a streak jingle. 562 episodes in a row. A champion, a record-setting producer streak for the show. Thank you very much. And Sir Casey says, PSA, Kansas City Midwest Canary Crime Meetup is August 24th. Listen up, folks. Take out your phone or whatever, your computer or your Neuralink or whatever. Go to canarycrymeetups.com. You gotta go meet the folks, man. The internet is dead. You can only know if someone actually exists if they are showing up at a meetup. That's it. You just don't know. Everybody could be bots. Everybody is bots, man. The public-facing internet is dead. It's all about meeting people around you. If you're on a mid-sized American city, there are Canarians within driving distance of you. And Sir Casey is holding a meetup in the Kansas City area. Kansas City area, Canary Crime Meetup, Sunday, August 24th. That's this weekend. Kansas City area. So show up Sunday, August 24th, 2 p.m., the Cardboard Corner Cafe, 4 p.m., Texas Roadhouse. If you want to get in touch with Sir Casey, email casey009@hotmail.com. Get in touch, show up. While you're at it, we have the Chicagoland meetup August 31st, Portillo and Barnelli's. You can email American Canary at protonmail.com. And that's not all. It just keeps going. We've got, of course, the Dallas, Texas area meetup in Garland, Texas. They're going to have a conspiracy themed party. It's over there, 1550 Wynn Joyce Road, Garland, Texas. Contact truthtransistorradio@gmail.com. They're going to be 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Show up, have a blast. You're not going to regret it. And let's see, this would be a great place for me to play the meetup jingle, which of course is not here. But look, I've got new eyeballs. I've got new things going on. I can just do a little searchy poo. Goodness gracious, I can't believe I spent so much time not being able to type things. Let's see, show me the attachments. Give me a meetup jingle, somebody. Come on now. Okay, I'm going to go to our, by the way, all these jingles are made by you guys, the talented musicians, the talented jingle makers. And we also, all this art you see all around you comes from producers as well. And you can produce the show that way. You can put value back in, create something for the show. Go to Canary Cry Meetup. Nope, canarycry.art. You go to canarycry.art. Actually, let me pull that up because it's not all the time that we show that. You should go to canarycry.art anyways. .art. If anybody is like a professional webmaster, we could really use someone who's just on top of this stuff. But here you go, canarycry.art. You go down here, you click on this button like that. You upload your art straight to the thing there, answer a few questions, give us permission to use it. And it goes into a beautifully crafted spreadsheet where we can actually, best case scenario, find and use the art when the time comes. But of course, there's been maybe 100 times that I have requested certain jingles. In fact, just all the jingles. If all the jingles could exist where I can access them and not secretly stored away on Gonza's, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Temporary hard drive, external hard drive. That would be great. It's, I'm pretty good with computers, but I can't quite yet pull off hacking into Gonza's external hard drive to steal all the meetup jingles. It's just not something I can do yet. And so it looks like maybe I won't get the meetup. See you at the meetup. See you at the meetup. Remember that one? See you. Nope, that's not it. All right, Gonzo. If you're listening to me, gotta give me the meetup jingle. See you at the meetup. Come on, baby. One last try. Nope. Okay. Well, on with the show. Come on, baby. All right, what are we doing? We just did meetups. Yeah, go to canarycrymeetups.com. You're going to love it. I don't know what you're doing. Why are you not there right now? Go. Let's see here. Popo Jocko says Portillo's and Glendale hits. Wow, beef and pasta for everyone. That's right. Chicagoland meetup. Go do it. Well, what comes after this? Let me check my notes. Oh, I did not see any art coming from anybody, but I suppose I should probably check that real quick. And if you're not having a fun time with the show as it is, one-man show, making our way through, appreciating our wonderful producers. I don't know what to tell you. This is what we're doing. Ooh, we did get some art. Let me take a look at this. Oh gosh. Okay. Let me go like this. I'm going to bring it up here. We got a piece of art from, who's this from? Come on. Amanda. Amanda. You know what Amanda did? Amanda went to canarycry.art, uploaded some art, filled out a form, left a note that says a Canary Cry Labubu doll, and here it is. Look at that. It's perfectly creepy. It's totally out of pocket. We've gotten some mixed reviews on whether we should do a Canary Cry Labubu doll. But you know, it's if we're not having fun, what are we doing? What's the point? Thank you very much, Amanda, for that. Appreciate it. Let's see. We also had some art come in from Ianon. Let me upload this here. Ianon says, long time no art. I'm kicking myself in the shins for not getting this one ready for last Monday's show, as the concept has lived in my head rent-free for a long time now. Clank, oh no, it's too big. Uploading takes too long. Oh no, we got this. We got this. Come on. Open. You know, worst case scenario, I can go like this. Share this tab. There we go. Okay, this is much easier. I don't know why I didn't do this in the first place. Here it is. Ianon says, long time no art. I'm kicking myself in the shins for not getting this one ready for last Monday's show, as the concept has lived in my head rent-free for a long time now. Clank, if you are a robot, I mean no disrespect. Thank you for all you do, even if it is largely a mystery to me. Yes, well, that's very sweet. Yes, Clank, a man of many wonderful talents. As far as I know, a human, but you really can't be too careful these days. Ianon did a wonderful, adorable sketch here in a blank page sketch notebook. It says, thanks to Clank for clanking. And she's got this beautiful pencil sketch of a robot man. It's got a bit of a Tin Man feel to it. And Clank has got a wrench in one hand, another sort of tool in the other hand, and is surrounded by pots and pans and is waving the wrenches wildly. This is where he earned his name, Clank. Thanks for clanking, Clank. And Clank has been around long before the pejorative term for robots was popularized recently in the Memoverse, clanker. Let's do this. We also got another piece of art. Let's see if I can do this one. This is a piece of audio art that comes in from someone who deserves our thanks. It is Jonathan F. Thank you very much, Jonathan F. Jonathan F says, well, let me upload this. Here it is. Jonathan F said, hello, guys. It's been a while since I sent something in, and I thought Pelosi's word salad about insider trading would be an appropriate memorialization. Thank you very much. All three of our artists today made a lovely point to say they hadn't made anything recently, and they made it today. So I'm glad we can do it. This is Jonathan F., Nancy Pelosi.
Let me just read what he said. I'm sorry that we had some sort of technical issue. Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
Yeah, but I wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail. But because of the confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that have been made over time. times I'm not into it. My husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider. But the president has his own exposure, so he's always projecting. He's always projecting. And let's not give him any more time on that, please. We're going forward here, and I'm very proud of my family. And while he might make fun of us, while somebody inspired by him breaks into our home and hits my husband in a deadly fashion, hits my husband over the head, and he thinks that's a riot, I'd rather not go into some of my other complaints about him right now. Rather to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid.
Wow. I don't think I realized how rambling then all over the place that clip was. The music really helps. Thank you very much, Jonathan F. Goodness gracious. Nice to have everybody back on the show. All right. Go to canarycry.art. Could be you, folks. Could be you. And all this art and this music will pop back up in the future because that's what happens. And especially after I hack into Gonz's external hard drive and steal all the jingles that he's been keeping from me for so long. Freedom, I say. Freedom to jingle. All right. Also, we've got producers who help us out with their time, of course. We thanked Sir Rightfoot Joy. Thank you to the whole Canary Cry Tech team. Of course, big thank you to the producers. They come in and spiritually produce the show. We also, let's see, have the time stampers. I can't recall if I had the timestamp jingle. That's okay. Who needs it? Because it's the timestamps. Oh, thank you to the timestampers. We either had Jade Bouncerson or Morgan E. They come in, they timestamp the show every single episode. We put it in all the places timestamps are important so people can navigate this crazy world of a live stream that oftentimes is like 3 hours long. It's a great way to be able to share certain parts of the show, and we couldn't do it without you, Morgan E. and Jade Bouncerson. God bless you. Timestamp jingle. Here I go, searching deep into the jungle. Wow, look at all these blank emails that come up when I do that. Let's do has attachment. Just searched every single email that we have ever had from any timestamper. All right. Well, I don't have it, but thank you very much. Of course, we got Jam. Big ol' thank you to Jam for the rundown on the goodness gracious, on the Brazil situation. Appreciate it. Know you're a busy guy, but coming in, give us that intro is very helpful. And also, don't know if you knew it, but Jam heads up the Telegram channel. So if you are a Telegram person, you like to go on Telegram, you like to make friends on Telegram, you like having an instant free flow connection with all sorts of other Canarians chatting away in a Telegram channel, you can go to canarycry.party. If you go to canarycry.party, you'll see this. You'll see all sorts of fun links. Of course, you're going to join the email list. You're going to join the text message alert system. Of course, you're going to do all those things. But right here, you can join the Canary Cry Telegram channel. And while you're there, give a big shout out to Adam42, who heads up the Discord channel. And you can see the Discord chat invite link right there, baby. Just go ahead, join right there. Get connected with a bunch of other Canarians. That's very important. Thank you to Joe for all the feedback. And I want to remind everybody, we do have a voicemail system. We have not been pitching it lately for whatever reason, because we have too many things to pitch. But if you go to canarycrynewstalk.com, and I dare you to do so, you'll see this green tab. It'll be on the right side or the bottom side. You click on that, a little pop-up will come up, and you can start recording, send a voice message to Basil and Gons. We got all sorts of fun. Do whatever you want, and if as long as it's appropriate, we'll play it on the show. It'll be a blast. But one person who does do that is our good buddy Joe, who gives us all sorts of very important information and feedback over there. And of course, the one, the only, Clank. Thank you very much, Clank, for doing all the clanking that you do. Certainly, we have a Clank jingle that exists, but there would be no way from... I got a little bit excited at the beginning of the show because I was able to find some jingles really quickly. Start building my live jingle board here. But so far, my record for finding them this episode has not been as impressive. But there you go. Thank you very much, Clank. And folks, you know what time it is. Oh, one last thing.
Cage Rattler Coffee, where value for value never tasted so good.
That's right. I forgot about Cage Rattler Coffee. I apologize to Cage Rattler Coffee. I meant to give you guys a shout out earlier in the episode. But folks, here's the thing. You're drinking coffee. You might as well support the show at the same time because the Canarians got together. They said, we can roast some coffee. We can ship the coffee. We can make very cool bags. We can support the show and support Canarians by going to CageRattlerCoffee.com. It's the best coffee. So I've been told. We got the sample pack right here, 12-ounce bags, 4 12-ounce bags. Look at that. We got stuff from Peru, Cusco region. We got Congo, Katana region. We got Nicaragua, Jinotega region. We got Honduras beans from San Marcos de Colon region. Folks, these beans are from all over the place. Get yourself the Nephilim Hunter Dark Roast, the Emu Wrangler Medium Roast, and support the show. Because a little piece of every sale comes to support the show. Value for value, baby. But not only are you supporting the show, that's parallel economy right there. You're buying the coffee anyways. Where are you getting your coffee from? The supermarket? You giving your money to big corporations who hate everything that you believe in? Is that what you're doing? Is that the best way that we can be interacting with the world in this here beast system? I don't think so. So go to CageRattlerCoffee.com, support the show, get the good stuff. And through August, if you use discount code ICEVEST, ICEVEST, you'll get a discount there. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Cage Rattler Coffee, for doing everything that you do for us. Well, where would we be? We would be so tired, so sleepy if it weren't for the Cage Rattler Coffee. Okie dokie. Well, other than that, you kind of know what you need to do now, right? You're gonna share the show, or you're not gonna share the show, or you should share the show. I think you should share the show. Oh, that's the survey thing. Take the survey. Okay. Share the show. Don't share the show. Share the show. I know there's a lot of different ways to think about the sharing the show thing. I used to give all sorts of really good advice about how you could share the show, and then people were, letting the podcast play into their plants at night, and the plants were growing out of control because plants really do well when you play them podcasts, specifically this podcast. You plug in some earbuds, you bury those earbuds down into the what is it called, the dirt, what plants live in. And then the sort of plant will start growing and kind of start telling all their plant friends that Canary Cry News Talk is all the best. This is where the best plants go for their news and things like this. But, some people just aren't ready. Some people aren't ready for sharing the show. And I like to think that I could possibly respect that. I'm trying. I'm not quite saying I'm there, but I do want to respect people who think, well, if I tell my friends and family about this podcast I listen to, they're going to think I'm weird. Well, yeah, they probably will. But go shill the show. It's very important you do it. Or don't. I don't care either way. Either way. We call it rattling cages, and all you got to do is walk right up to them, grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! Don't ever silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah, folks. Get on out there. Fight power. You know what I did forget to do, and you're welcome, is tell you to join the Canary text message alert system. I'll just tell you to do it now. Check out your phone, text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. Very easy. Text Canary to 877-740-3226. You'll just get a notification whenever we go live, so you'll never miss the show unless you want to. But the fun part is you can text us back, okay? You can text us back. And I read them all. I can't carry on a conversation with you. It's very expensive. But you can be like area code 210 who said that you won't read this on air. Meetups unstopped. I don't know what to tell you about the meetups unstopped, except where you can also text one word, meetups, to the same number, 877-740-3226, and get alerts for the meetup. Let's see, 864 sends a brief update about the recent fake data scandals from a handful of the most prestigious universities. Yeah, scientific establishments crumbling before our eyes. You can go to 708, says, want to have some fun, pull up Google Maps, know where the national capital is supposed to be, and ask, where's the District of Columbia? Where did it go? You can be like 540, says, favorite text of the day. Go do it. Text Canary to 877-740-3226. Thanks for listening to this. Think outside the cage. Almost had it, folks. Thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Grind News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage. And for your listening pleasure, here's Feeding the Ducks.